Hi Lux for Less family, welcome or welcome back to another video. Today's video is going to be just a little bit different. It's going to be, I guess you can call it a story time or a get to know me, or maybe even a combination of the two. So I realized that I have about 50 videos uploaded on my channel, and there's not really anything personal about me or anything about me that would lend you an insight to the other side of me that is not involved with thrifting or DIY or cooking or anything like that. I'm one of those people that believe you do not have to get all dolled up to come in front of a camera. I am a very transparent person, and sometimes what you see is what you get. So with that being said, let's just get started. So as many of you know, I have a son. He's 20 now. I am married to his dad, and in 2015, my son suffered a medical emergency. Just to give you a little bit of insight of how it started, it was just a normal day. My husband was supposed to be at work that morning at 6 o'clock. And because he had a doctor's appointment, he had something going on with his eye. It changed his work schedule. So he was home with my son and I getting ready for the day that morning. My son came into my room, you know, teenagers. He was 14 at the time or 15, I can't remember. But he came into my room. He and I were having a disagreement about a shirt he wanted to wear to summer camp. And about the third time that he came into the room, wanted to wear the same shirt. I don't even remember why I told him he couldn't wear the shirt, but I just remember that was the disagreement. About the third time he came into the room to ask me about the shirt, that third time he stepped into the room and I turned around. I was standing in my closet, and I remember saying, "Didn't I tell you you can't wear that shirt?" And my son froze and fell to the floor. You ever hear people say that saying where they say, "I felt my life flash before my eyes"? Well, I didn't feel my life flash before my eyes, but I felt his life flash before my eyes, if that makes any sense. My son fell to the floor and started convulsing. He was having a seizure. Now, my son had never had seizures prior to that point. My pregnancy with him was normal for all intents and purposes. My delivery was normal. He was due on March 24th, and he was actually born on March 23rd. So everything about my pregnancy and delivery was normal. Up until that point, he was very healthy, never had any health issues. So him having this seizure was completely out of the blue. My husband was in the shower. I remember banging on the door. "Oh my God, something's wrong with G." We call my son G. My son is a junior. His name is Gabriel. His dad's name is Gabriel. So we call him G. My husband jumped out of the shower. My son's still convulsing. Of course, I called 911, the operator. You know, side note, I could never be a 911 operator because as frantic as I was in that moment, I cannot imagine having to receive those type of calls all day, every day, back to back, and still having to maintain some level of composure because, you know, the caller is already in a state of panic, so they're going to feed off of your energy, and it's just, I was freaking out, y'all. So the 911 operator, she said, "Ma'am, your son is having a seizure. Don't give him CPR, you know, yada, yada, yada." She said the ambulance should be to your house in less than 3 minutes. She stayed on the phone with me. I don't even remember her name. I wish I did, but she stayed on the phone with me. She said, "Okay, they're pulling up to your house. They should be knocking on your door." You know, my husband stayed upstairs with my son. I run downstairs to go let them in. They come in. My son at this point is no longer convulsing, but he's in what they call a post-ictal stage, meaning that the seizure, the convulsing is over, but his body is still in a state of shock. You know, he was not aware of anything that was going on, but he was conscious. The seizure lasted about 30 seconds. It felt like 30 minutes, but in reality, it was about 30 seconds. So the EMTs, they attended to him. My husband is trying to remain as calm as possible, if you can imagine, in that situation. But as his mom, you can imagine, oh my God. It was to the point of where the EMT, one of the EMTs, it was three guys. I'm sorry, y'all. This is so emotional for me. I really have never talked about this out loud. So talking about it is like reliving it. I'm sorry, y'all. I had to pull myself together. So there were three EMTs that two of them had to stay attending to my son. One of them had to attend to me because I was having a full-on panic attack. I was having trouble catching my breath. The EMT had to literally walk me into the bathroom and say, "Ma'am, calm down, because if you don't, you're going to be our second patient." He gave me a minute. I remember him giving me oxygen to breathe. And it was like something snapped, say, "Your son needs you." I got myself together, still crying at this point. Got myself together. I calmed down. I'm eating lunch too, guys. I'm eating a slice of pizza. So if you see me chewing, that's what it is I'm eating right here. So I calmed down. I got myself together. By this time, they had my son on the stretcher. They had an IV in him. And of course, the next step was to transport him to the hospital. So my husband stayed behind to lock up the house. I get in the ambulance with my son. I ride on the front seat. The EMT is in the back with my son. We go to Wilson's Children's Hospital. We get to the hospital. They're very attentive. And they, check him in. They get a brief description of what happened so they can make sure to treat him properly. They did. I'm going to fast forward a little bit because some of the details are kind of irrelevant, not to his treatment, but to the story. Fast forward a little bit, they did a CAT scan. They did an MRI. His brain was normal. They could not find anything, and they were going to send him home. Well, I said no, because what happened? What is going on? Sometimes you have to, as a side note, parents, fight for your children's medical care, fight for your loved ones' medical care, because sometimes these doctors, not suggesting that the doctors at Wolfson's did this, but sometimes in general, these doctors will just kind of push you off to get to the next patient. But in my persistence with asking what is going on with my son, the ER attending that was there said, "You know what? I'm going to call a pediatric neurologist." Just so happened, this is how you know God is looking out for you. They say God will protect the fool and the baby. Just so happened, the pediatric neurologist that he called is the chief of pediatric neurology for Nemours Children's Clinic. The doctor came in, ordered a few more tests, and determined that, it was what it was. He gave him a prescription of a very low dosage of Keppra, and we thought all was going to be well. And he told us, this could be one time, this could be a new journey that you're on. Never in a million years did I think it was going to be a new journey, So the next day, my son was okay, he went to summer camp the next day. He was fine. Of course, I was on pins and needles. I explained everything to his camp counselors, and they were, trained and familiar with how to assess or handle that situation because they've had children that have had medical emergencies before. So, for the next week or so, my son was fine. On day 9 of him having that first seizure, my husband and I wake up to a thump. I jump up. My son has fallen out of his bed and is on the floor convulsing. He's bleeding from the mouth because he has now bitten his tongue. We take him back to the hospital. We didn't call the ambulance this time. We let him get to a state of where we can manage him ourselves, I guess. We take him back to the hospital, and they send him home. We are in the line at Burger King to get breakfast because we were there all morning. My son has a seizure in the car in the drive-thru at Burger King. We take him back to the ER. They decide to keep him. EEGs, more CAT scans, more MRIs. My son is perfectly healthy in textbook terms, with the exception of he's having these seizures. At this point now, months later, he's now started 8th grade. We're starting to notice a pattern that he's having the seizures only in his sleep. And they're coming at a frequency. They started off every 9 days, and then they went to a frequency of every 21 days. They're all 30 seconds, but they were on a pattern in his sleep, 30 seconds every 21 days. So at this point, his medicine has now been increased to, he's on 13 pills a day. Y'all, it was a struggle. I'm telling you, it was a struggle. The medicine is now starting to affect his mood. He was very, very aggressive. His hair was falling out. He was just not himself. Then one of the medicines that they had him on, it was a nighttime medicine. It made him extremely lethargic, where probably 10 minutes after he took it, he was asleep. That worked for a little while. So we, fast forward. So now at this point, we are in the month of November. He's doing great. He's doing fine. Haven't had seizures in, a few months now. Now we go into the next year. We're in June. So we had gone from November all the way to June. Seizures came back. This time, y'all, they came back with a vengeance. He's no longer having them in his sleep. He's having them up now while he's walking around. So you can imagine my panic as a mom. More tests. The neurologist says, I'm going to order a PET scan. Y'all, if you know anybody that had a PET scan, you know how involved that is. PET scan was normal. All of my son's tests up to this point were normal. My son was diagnosed with juvenile myoclonic epilepsy, which is an epilepsy that pretty much rears its head in juveniles, mainly around the puberty stage. I should add that the summer that my son started having these seizures, my son grew about 6 inches or so, and his shoe size grew about 2 sizes. So he went through a pretty extreme growth spurt. And sometimes, doing my research, talking to the doctor, sometimes with all of those rush of hormones, the brain doesn't know how to take it. And sometimes it's like a shock, I guess. Well, fast forward now, we're years later. There were some challenges in between, but fast forward now, 3 years later, I am happy to report, thank you, Jesus. My son hit his 3-year milestone. His last seizure was April 27, 2018. He hit his 3-year milestone this past April. And, he is now with an adult neurologist at Mayo Clinic. I love him to death, Dr. Joseph Servin, who feels pretty good that, this may be something that my son may grow out of. People do tend to grow out of it. I'm praying to Jesus. I say a prayer every night that, this part of his life this is just going to be a part of his life that he looks back on and says, my God, look where God has brought me from. But he graduated high school on time. One thing that he didn't do, he didn't play any sports. He didn't play any sports because he was nervous about what might happen. And I get that, I understand. But his high school time was, was okay. Back up just a little bit. My son did suffer a seizure in high school. It ended up on a social media platform, but the kids were so, they were calling to check on him. And I shouldn't say it ended up on a social media platform in a negative way. They put it on a social media platform saying, oh my God, pray for my friend. I can't believe this is happening. I'm scared, that type of thing. So they were worried about him. They were concerned. Teachers were calling. His 10th grade year, he did have to sit out. Let's see, he had to sit out from March until June. So from March, sometime in his 10th grade year, he did homeschool because his seizures were just all over the place. I know this story is all over the place, but I'm telling you this because it has a happy ending. Fast forward to today, he is driving. He has a girlfriend. He has friends, and his friends, oh my gosh, his friends, those boys stuck by his side. They didn't give him any slack. They didn't let him use that as an excuse. They checked on him. I mean, it was like, ain't nothing wrong with my boy. He cool, So I was grateful for that. And because, man, yeah. But he is still friends with all of those same boys today. He has a girlfriend. He's driving. He's working. He wanted to go into the military, which is something that he always wanted to do, even from a little boy. But, of course he couldn't because he can't get the medical clearance. So, because he couldn't go into the military, he's on this journey of trying to find his way. And I think he's getting there. For all intents and purposes, y'all, he is a normal young man. He still has to take medicine. He takes 2 pills in the morning and he takes 2 pills in the evening. And he is just so oblivious. Like, this is not even a thought in his head sometimes, that I remind him to take it because he's like, oh dang, Mom. He's like, I forget that I have to take this. Which on one hand, I'm happy that he's not allowing this to control his mind. But on the other hand, I'm like, I really need you to be on top of this and take this until your doctor says otherwise. So, but he is doing great, you guys. I told this story in hopes of maybe trying to help somebody or encourage somebody of who may be going through a similar situation. It doesn't have to be epilepsy, but any medical situation. It is medical crises are stressful within itself. So sometimes you just seeing somebody else going through the same thing that you're going through and seeing that there's a bright end at the end of that dark tunnel, it does kind of help you. Now, I will say, my son, it was very important to me to get my son into therapy, which I did. And y'all, I'm glad that I did when I did, because some of the things that he told his therapist were things that he needed to get out. As for me, I'm always going to have anxiety. I didn't really have anxiety problems that I, recognized prior to that, but I do have issues with anxiety today. I am super sensitive anytime he leaves the house. Y'all know that saying, silence is deafening. Did not understand what that meant until my son went through this. When my son was having seizures in his sleep, prior to that, I was able to sleep with the TV off. I would set the sleep timer and let it go off. Now I cannot sleep unless I hear noise, because if it's silent, then my ears are always going to be listening for, something. So, there's that. I did have to take some time off work because, y'all, my mind, after the dust started to settle a little bit, my mind was just not in a good spot. So, but, again, today he is doing great. Me and him still argue like normal mother and daughter. Normal mother and son, but I am so blessed. And I told you all on previous videos that I have the theme blessed running throughout my house. You can probably see the sign right here. It's a placard that says blessed. My doormat says blessed. And upstairs in my office, you might remember, I have the gold, I don't even know what it is, gold something. And it says blessed, because this family, this Allen household is truly, truly, truly blessed. So I know this was a bit longer video than probably some of you all are used to, but I just wanted to do something a little different in hopes of encouraging someone that might be going through a medical situation themselves or with their loved ones, their loved one or loved ones. Just know that God hears you. It's not going to last forever. There is a bright light at the end of the dark tunnel. Just remain in prayer. Always remember that in any situation, I know the first thing we want to do is close ourselves off to other people. That is the time when you need people most. Because when you're battling stuff like that on your own, your mind is a muscle. And just like any muscle in your body, it'll get sore and start to not function as probably because it's not as strong as it probably is in its optimal state of performance. Your mind controls your body. Sometimes all you need to do is just sit and let somebody listen to you. Kind of like what you're doing to me right now. Stay prayed up. God hears you. He heard me. He still hears me. I know sometimes he be like, oh Lord, here she go again. Just kidding, Lord. That was just a little funny. But that was my story time, you guys. I hope you all take something from it. I hope you are encouraged from it. And maybe one day I'll bring the boy. That's what I call him, the boy. I'll bring the young man on camera so he can say hi, so that you all can see this work of wonder that I'm talking about. But I just wanted to, do a little bit of a more personal, touchy-feely video so you all can get to know the other side of me, because it's not all about thrifting. There are so many more facets to me that I think I'm going to start to open up and let other people see, because I don't want to appear as one note, as some would say. But that's all I got, y'all. I just wanted to chit chat with y'all. And I don't know, maybe we'll do more of these in the future, but I'll see you guys in the next video. Don't forget to like, comment, share, and subscribe. I love you guys. Bye.